Welcome to This Week's Okay at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, and my colleague, Russell Berger, both attorneys at Offit Kurman. And today we are talking about the use of FMLA leave, and in particular, the use of it as it relates to parental leave and whether you're running it all as one chunk of FMLA versus intermittent. There's a couple different ways that people can take FMLA. Some are required by law. Some are ways that you are permitted to do it by policy. What are some things that employers should consider when addressing FMLA as it relates to parental leave, Russell?
Yeah, so one of the first things is that under the FMLA, again, assuming that applies to you and you're a larger employer and the employee is eligible, under FMLA, you're not required to give intermittent leave for parental leave for the bonding time. So what that means is you can give someone 12 weeks and it's a straight 12 weeks, and that would be permissible under the FMLA. But what some studies are starting to show is that when you do it that way, people take advantage of the parental leave benefits less so. And in particular, non-birthing parents take advantage of it less so because it's less appealing to them. They want to take time when the new child arrives, and they may want to take time later, but they don't because it's, if they're only allowed to do it in one consistent block. So what, some of the research is starting to suggest is if you want people to take advantage of the parental leave benefit, one of the ways to do it is to provide some form of intermittent leave. And again, as I kind of alluded to, there's, the actual birth or bringing the new child home. And then there's, maybe the birthing parent is going back to work after they've taken their 12 weeks worth of leave or whatever it may be. And the other parent wants to stay home and help facilitate that transition because it's a time of transition for the family. So by splitting the parental leave, which the FMLA permits, the employer might be providing a better benefit to the employee.
I think this is a good example of where, what you legally might be required to do can kind of nicely meet the practical of something, right? So a lot of times employers will think, well, this is what I'm required to do, and here's how it works under the law, and I don't have to provide intermittent, so I'm not going to even think about it. I think this is a good example of really being a little bit more pragmatic about it and thinking about like, well, this is a leave we provide. What's the best way for us to ensure it's used, ensure productivity, provide benefits to employees, and really think about that practical piece of it, because it might also be work better for your business as well. So there's a lot of different reasons that this can be a good thing to consider, and wouldn't shy away from it just because it's something a little bit unique, or maybe it's not the way that someone's done it in the past. It's something that's worth, from what we're seeing, from what you mentioned, some studies and different just examinations of different companies doing it this way versus the alternative, we're seeing a benefit to it. So it is worth taking a look at. There might be a little bit more administrative burden to scheduling these things, or just kind of keeping track of the leave and when it's taken, and then when, FMLA replenishes and those types of things. But the benefit may outweigh the burden here in this situation.
Yeah, well, and there's ways to kind of reduce the burden. So, sometimes when you hear intermittent FMLA leave, like that could be a day here, a day there, and other, as a result of other, qualifying reasons for FMLA. But with parental leave, since there's no requirement beyond just providing it as one chunk, if you are going to split it, you have discretion about how you split it. So, what we see a lot of is, you can split it, but you can split it into no more than two chunks. So, you can have, time here and time there, and you can have work in between, but you can't do 1 week on, 1 week off for 24 weeks. And, you think about it from just like running a business, like that's very hard to manage through when the employee is showing up inconsistently. And, if you split it, like that's a little more burdensome than having one chunk. But if you have rules about how you split it, how big, one chunk can be versus the other, it can help. There's ways you can do that to help facilitate the operational process and ease the management burden.
Yeah, and something to always note here is that, these policies can get a little bit complicated anyway, just because there's state requirements and things as well. So always want to mention that, and that there's layering in that sometimes happens depending on what your state laws might be around parental leave. So something to consider as well, but it's definitely worth the thoughtful approach here. And once you've got something in place, then that'll be the new normal, right, for the way your policy works. And I think those are great points, Russell. Well, thanks. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.